There are things we mean to say that somehow remain unsaid, not because they are secrets, not because we have decided to keep them to ourselves. Most of the time, we simply don't feel any urgency. We think there will be another phone call, another visit, another ordinary afternoon when the conversation can happen naturally. So we leave certain words for later. We tell ourselves we'll say thank you probably next time. We'll ask that question when things are less busy. We'll apologize when the moment feels right. We will tell someone how much they meant to us when we find the right words. And because nothing appears to be ending, we assume there's plenty of time. The people we care about are still there. Their number is in our phone. We see them at work, at family gatherings, or whenever life gives us the chance. We talk about ordinary things. We talk about what we've been doing, what happened at work, plans for the weekend, something we watched. And somewhere behind those everyday conversations are the things we have been meaning to say. They are not forgotten, they are simply postponed. The strange thing is that postponing something can feel almost the same as keeping it. The words are still with us, so we assume we haven't lost the opportunity to share them. But time has a quiet way of changing the meaning of later. Later becomes next week. Next week becomes next year. And sometimes, without any clear moment when things changed, later becomes a time we can no longer reach. That is how some important conversations disappear. Not through an argument, not because somebody refused to listen. They disappear through ordinary delays. A phone call we meant to make after a busy week. A question we thought we would ask during the next visit. A message we started writing but never sent. There is rarely a moment when we consciously decide, I am never going to say this. We just keep moving it further ahead. I think many of us experience this with our parents. When we are young, our parents can seem like permanent parts of the world. They have always been there. Because they have been there for so long, it is easy to believe there will always be more time to ask them things. One day we'll ask Dad what he was like when he was young. We'll ask Mom what she wanted to do before she had children. We'll ask how they met. We'll ask about the places they lived, the people they knew, and the dreams they once had. Those questions don't feel urgent. There will be another family dinner, another birthday, another visit. But years pass quickly, and sometimes we realize that we knew someone for most of our lives without ever asking who they were before we came along. We knew them as mom, as dad, as the person who made dinner, drove us places, gave advice, worried about us, or called to make sure we arrived safely. But there may have been entire chapters of their lives that we never heard about. Stories can disappear simply because nobody asked for them while the person was still there to tell them. And it isn't only family. There are also friends we mean to thank. People who helped us through difficult periods without even knowing how important their support was. Perhaps they stayed close when we were going through something we didn't know how to explain. Perhaps they made us laugh during a time when we had forgotten how. At the time, we appreciated it. But years later, we sometimes understand the moment differently. We realize that a small act of kindness mattered more than we knew. And we think, I should tell them. Then we wonder whether it would be strange to bring it up after so much time. Would they remember? Would it sound too serious? So we leave it. We tell ourselves they probably know. Perhaps they do. But knowing that someone appreciates you is not always the same as hearing what you meant to them. Some of the words we hold back are much simpler. We miss someone. We are proud of them. We are grateful they are part of our lives. These feelings can seem so obvious to us that we assume the other person already understands. After all, we spend time together, we care about them, we show up when it matters. But people cannot always see the full meaning behind our actions. A friend may know that we value them without realizing they helped us through one of the hardest periods of our lives. A parent may know that we care without ever hearing that we now understand sacrifices we took for granted when we were younger. Someone may know that we love them without knowing that a particular memory still makes us smile. There are things people would probably be glad to hear. Not because they need praise, simply because being understood is something all of us quietly want. Perhaps that is one reason these words are so easy to postpone. Saying something meaningful makes us vulnerable. It changes the atmosphere. We can talk about work, the weather, or something we watched without revealing very much about ourselves. But saying, I'm grateful you were there for me, is different. It brings something hidden into the open, even with people we love. That can feel strangely difficult. So we wait until a birthday, until Christmas, until the next family gathering, until life becomes less busy. But life doesn't always become less busy. There's always another task, another reason to leave the important conversation for a quieter day. Then something happens that reminds us how uncertain time can be. We hear that someone we knew has become seriously ill. We learn that an old neighbor has passed away. We see an old photograph and notice people who are no longer part of our lives. For a moment, the things we meant to say become very clear. We remember the phone call we kept delaying, the person we intended to visit, the question we never asked, and suddenly all the ordinary reasons for waiting seem very small. But I don't think this means we should blame ourselves. We were living, we were busy with the things that seemed necessary at the time. We assumed the people around us would continue to occupy the same places in our lives. That assumption is deeply human. Nobody can live every day as though every conversation might be the last. Most days are supposed to be ordinary. We make coffee and go to work. We answer messages. We talk about things that don't matter very much. There's nothing wrong with that. Many of the moments we remember most warmly were completely ordinary when they happened. Sitting in a kitchen, driving somewhere together, listening to someone tell a story we had heard before, laughing about something that would be impossible to explain years later. The value of these moments often becomes clear only after time has passed. Perhaps the problem is not that we treat ordinary life as ordinary. Perhaps it is that we quietly assume ordinary life will continue forever. Time rarely takes things away with a dramatic warning. It changes our lives gradually. People move. Friendships become less frequent. Parents grow older. Children become adults. Because these changes happen slowly, we often don't notice them while they are happening. Then one day we realize that the last time we spoke to someone was months ago. We can't remember when a familiar routine ended. We don't know which ordinary conversation became the final one. The last time rarely feels like the last time. It feels normal. You say goodbye, you assume you will speak again. You continue with the rest of your day. Only later does that memory become important. And perhaps that is why the things we never say can stay with us for so long. The words don't disappear. They remain somewhere inside us. Sometimes they return when we hear a song. Sometimes they appear while looking through old photographs. Sometimes we remember them in the middle of an ordinary day, years after the person is gone. We imagine how the conversation might have sounded. We wonder what they would have said. There's no way to know. But remembering does not always have to become regret. Sometimes it simply changes the way we see the people who are still around us. The people we see so often that we forget they have entire histories beyond the parts we know. The people whose presence has become so familiar that we no longer notice how much they shape our lives. We may not need a perfect speech. We may not need to turn an ordinary day into an emotional occasion. Sometimes a simple sentence is enough. I've been thinking about you. I'm glad you're in my life. I still remember what you did for me. I never asked you about that. I understand now. Words do not have to be extraordinary to matter. Often they matter because they are true. And perhaps the most important things we leave unsaid are not always secrets. Sometimes they are ordinary feelings we assume people already know. We appreciate them. We are grateful they were there. We think there will be time to say it later. And perhaps there will be. But while we are waiting for the right moment, life continues quietly moving forward. This is Quiet Echoes. I'll see you in the next video.